Good evening and welcome. Thank you for joining this special celebration, which is not just a donor appreciation event, but rather it's a celebration of what we all achieve together. Matching donors, volunteers, shluchim, and their families all banded together to reach and exceed the goal of this campaign. Over 400 contributors came forth to support Chabad of Louisiana to the tune of over $120,000. We thank each and every one of you for your part, and we say Mazel Tov to each and every one of us for achieving this milestone. L'chaim. We encourage everyone to keep their cameras on so we can see each other. And even though the sound will be muted, we want to see everybody. When the comedian finishes his show, we'll open the floor for comments and toasts. And if you'd like to say something and participate in that, please send a chat comment to the host. At this point, I'd like to ask my father, Rabbi Zelig Rifkin, who together with my mother, may they be well, are the Rebbe's first shluchim to Louisiana, sent here by the Rebbe 45 years ago to establish Chabad in our region, to offer greetings on this special occasion.
Good evening, everybody. And again, thank you for all the help that we received from all the people, matchers, donors, volunteers, like Mendel mentioned, all of these different people. And it's not just a fundraiser, which is important, but it's not just a fundraiser. It sort of feels like people getting together to get a job done. And sometimes you feel you're out there on your own trying to get a job done. But when you feel and you see so many people coming together and helping out, each person in their own way and with their own ability, doing things that don't necessarily come comfortable or easy for people, that is extremely appreciated and gives me and Bluma and all the other people that are working and part of this a tremendous boost of energy, appreciation, and hopefully gives us the push to push further and to accomplish more and greater and better things. And we'll see how the world turns out in the next couple of months to see if we can actually start doing things like before and better than before. The period of the year that we are in now, in 2 days from now, on Thursday, is the 17th of Tammuz. And the 17th of Tammuz marks the beginning of a sad period in Jewish history. It's the beginning of a 3-week period from when the city of Jerusalem was besieged by the Babylonians and then by the Romans. And then on the 9th of Av, 3 weeks later to the day, is when the first and second temple were destroyed. And we do different things during this time in order to commemorate that particular event. The Rebbe taught us that instead of looking backward and just mourning, we should look forward and see how we can transform things and make them better. And the Rebbe suggested that we should take these 3 weeks, this 3-week period, and use it for learning about how to build a temple, what were the services in the temple, the sections of the Rambam that talk about the coming of redemption, the sections of the Talmud that talk about coming of redemption. And in this way, when we study about it and it becomes more real to us, we make the effort to move forward and to be able to work towards that goal. So true, it's a sad period in our time, but at the same time, it also is the time when we can look forward to the transformation of this darkness into a positive by doing something, a concrete step of focusing on how things should be done, how things can be done and will be done. And it's actually alluded to into the day of the month of the 17th of Tammuz. It's called Yud Zayin. Yud Zayin, Hebrew letters in Hebrew are also numbers. So Yud Zayin means 17. And 17 has the same numerical value as the word tov, which means good. And it's a little bit funny to think about the day of the beginning of the destruction of Jerusalem and of the temples should be considered good. But I think this is what the Rebbe is pointing out to us, that we should not just look to see the mourning that goes on and the past that was destroyed, but we should see how we can transform this into good. And hidden within it, there's a possibility for good if we do our part in our job. I want to take the opportunity also to wish Bluma happy birthday. Her birthday is on the 17th of Tammuz, and 17th of Tammuz, like I just said, is good. So happy birthday, an early happy birthday. Present is coming later. And I wish everybody well, and thank you for participating.
That's fantastic.
As mentioned earlier, this is not just a donor appreciation event, but it's a celebration. In fact, you could say that it's a family simcha. It's a family celebration. This campaign brought together members of the Chabad of Louisiana family, a 45-year continuum of this special mishpacha. Each person who has passed through the doors of Chabad House over the past 45 years, whether they are community members, students and alumni, visitors, family, each is a member of this family. So raise your glass and say L'chaim, family. Job well done. Just want to remind everyone that after the show is over, we'll be opening for comments and toasts. If you want to participate in that, please send a comment to the host in the chat box of this event. Danny Lobell is also a member of this family. He was in New Orleans several years ago, together with his wife Kylie, for a gig, and they stayed with us for Shabbos. Danny and Kylie participated in the campaign, and we are excited to bring Danny on for this family celebration. Daniel Lobell is a Los Angeles-based comedian, comic book creator, and podcast host. He is the host of Modern Day Philosophers podcast, which features comedians like Bill Burr, Brian Regan, Maria Bramford, Aisha Taylor, and Fred Armisen talking philosophy, and Tipping the Scales, a podcast about body image and health. He is also the creator of the Fair Enough autobiographical comic book series and has 2 albums on Stand Up Records, Some Kind of Comedian, released in 2013, and The Nicest Boy in Barcelona in 2017. That year, Daniel made his Edinburgh Fringe debut with his one-man show, Broke as a Joke, which received accolades from critics and fans alike. He returned with his breakout hit, Tipping the Scales, at the Underbelly in 2019. He has appeared on WTF with Mark Marone, This American Life, The Howard Stern Wrap-Up, Dr. Drew's podcast, Gilbert Gottfried's Amazing Colossal Podcast, Risk, KPCC, and The Artie Lang Show. In 2015, he gave a TEDx talk, and he has toured all around the world doing stand-up comedy. He is a graduate of the Second City Improv Program and the creator of the first comedy podcast to feature interviews with comedians. He is married to writer Kylie Aura Lobell and is a proud papa to their daughter, 2 dogs, 2 tortoises, and 4 chickens. Without further ado, Danny Lobell.
Hello, everybody. I won't be able to hear them, correct, Mendel? Oh, I think Mendel's muted now. But I won't be able to hear you, but I'm going to assume that you're all laughing and having a great time. So first of all, it's a great honor and it's a privilege to be here with Chabad of Louisiana. Thank you, Rabbi Rifkin. And it was great to be able to be there and see what you guys do in person. And it's truly an honor. And hopefully that, just to carry on to what you were saying for a moment before I get into the jokes, hopefully the humor will bring lightness and positivity in times that have been a little rough for a lot of people, and that it should bring us into laughter, which should stretch into times of Mashiach, which should be coming right now. But hopefully at the end of the show, we'll pack up our bags and we'll go. But in the meantime, it's great to be here with everybody. And just a lot going on in the world. First of all, in my world, my wife has been, she's wonderful, and she's always trying to encourage me to lose weight. And one thing she said, I noticed that, I don't know if it's so much how much you eat, but maybe you need to exercise a little more. I notice you don't move around too much. And I said, sure, when you're here, maybe that could be the case. But as soon as you leave, I'm always just moving like crazy, just out of respect for you. I sit still. So she didn't buy it. She wasn't going for that excuse. She got me a Fitbit for my birthday to start tracking my steps. So now every day when she leaves, I put it on my dog and I throw a ball around. And this morning we did 60,000 steps before breakfast. It's unbelievable. It works a lot better when you're dealing with 4 legs. So, but so much happening in the whole world. Of course, we know that people are tearing down statues, which is, I don't know if that, from a Jewish perspective, maybe that's good, but from an American perspective, it seems not so good. They're talking about tearing down a statue of Theodore Roosevelt from in front of the Natural History Museum. And I saw they were saying, what can they do with it? And I had an idea. I thought maybe they could find some kind of American history museum that could take it. I don't know. Just throwing that one out there. Maybe it could have a home there. I like going around LA. I try to make life fun for myself. What I do is I like to mess with people at red lights. Sometimes I get stopped at a red light and there's a little bit of time, and I'll roll my window down and I'll talk to the driver in the car next to me. And I'll often pretend to be an immigrant looking for ice cream. I'll say things like, I'll roll my window down and go, "Excuse me, do you know where is ice cream?" And people go, ice cream? Are you looking for ice cream, buddy? And then just to show them something's not right up here, I just nod my head real slow with a smile. I go, "Ice cream, where is?" And the game is to see if I could keep them going long enough that people in the cars behind start honking. And I've had some pretty good conversations. I've had people tell me about ice cream, all the different places you can get it. Somebody told me about Baskin Robbins. I like to pretend that's a fascinating idea. Many different kinds of ice cream. And if it's going really well, I catch them at the second light and we try it all over again. It's nuts now though, because you can't really have the same kind of fun with people. You don't know what's going on their face. I can't even hear you guys. I don't even know if the jokes are going over. I just have to assume I'm a huge hit. It's a pretty good way to go through life anyway. But I imagine you guys are going nuts over these jokes. This is really fantastic. You walk around, you can't even see what people's expressions are on their faces because you're wearing a mask everywhere. I walked into the store the other day. The manager handed me a mask. He said, "You need to put this on to come in." I said, "Sir, I'm already wearing a mask." He said, "I know. I'm giving you a second one because we can still see part of your face and it's offending other customers." I'm kidding, of course. But everybody's worried these days about microaggressions. You hear that term, microaggressions? I think we got to worry more about the macroaggressions, the bigger problems that are going on out there. And everybody talks about the fake news. That's another thing. And it depends wherever you are politically. You think the other side is fake news. I hear friends of mine on the left say that Fox News is fake news, and I hear friends of mine on the right, they say CNN is fake news. I try to give everybody the benefit of doubt, and I think they're all telling the truth, so I assume it's all fake news. So therefore, there's no news, and no news is good news. So I'm always happy. So I see some people laughing. That's a good sign. It's different, usually I'll wait if the laughs, but I have no idea how long they're going for, so I'll just continue on. I live in LA. I came from New York. I originally moved from New York, and one thing, LA is beautiful. Well, it was beautiful. Now, the city is unfortunately falling apart in many ways. We have many homeless people, and first they started out what I wonder is some of them have no home, and then some of them have a tent, and I wonder if the people who are homeless without a tent walk by and see the people with the tent. I'm sorry. I wonder if the people with the tent walk by and see the people without the tent and go, "Man, I wouldn't want to wind up like that." But we've got, the tents are getting so advanced now. I saw a tent that had 2 stories the other day. It's getting so wild. But LA, it was a beautiful place, but people in New York don't want to move to LA. And the number one reason when you ask them is they say that LA is fake. They say, everything is so fake there in LA. And that's what keeps people in the bad weather. So I said, you know what, I'll take my chances. And I headed out to LA. And I remember my friend Dave called me from New York, and he says, how's it going out there in LA? I said, it's wonderful. The weather's fantastic. We've got palm trees and everything. And he said, yeah, but it's so fake, isn't it? I said, it's not fake at all. That's just a stereotype that we have in New York. If you come out here, you'd see for yourself. He said, what are you doing right now? I said, I'm putting down plastic grass on my lawn. But anyway, um, I have a baby, thank God. We were blessed with a wonderful little girl, and I'm a new father. It's my first child, and it's very funny. Everybody has advice for you when you have a baby. People come up to me and they'll say the most random things. They'll give me advice like, "Oh, you shouldn't hold the baby that way," or "What are you feeding the baby? Oh, you shouldn't feed the baby that way," or "The baby needs to have socks on. The baby shouldn't have socks on." Uh, I have a feeling no matter what, please God, I'm going to be okay raising the baby, whether the baby's wearing socks or one sock or two socks. But then the other extreme of it is that you always have people who tell you you're being too careful with the baby. There are all these people that say, oh, you're just being too careful with the baby. You're being overprotective. It must be your first child. I say, yeah, it is my first child. They say, okay, well, once you have another kid or two or three kids, you'll see that will change. And I just have to wonder what happens when you have more kids. What are these people doing? Are they putting the babies down on broken beds of glass? What is going on with these second kids' babies? At what point do people stop caring about babies? I have a tortoise. I love the tortoise. Here's the thing about a tortoise that people don't realize. You get a tortoise, it's 100-year commitment. Possibly take on a tortoise. That's how long they live, 100 years, which is kind of a sneaky trick. Dogs, they don't live, dogs are much cuddlier and much more fun, but they live, maybe 15, if you're really lucky, 20 years. Tortoises, they're about the least cuddly pet you could possibly have, but I guess the amount of fun you can have with them is less, so it's stretched out over a longer period of time. 100-year commitment, that's a big one. Now, granted, it's not the most extreme financial commitment. It only works out to about $2 a week on cucumbers, but still, it's. I always say to myself, you know what? At least I have. If everything, God forbid, goes wrong, I at least have something I could leave my daughter. I have this tortoise, and I could leave that to her, and she could leave it to her kids. The tortoise is a long-term investment for a family. And the tortoises, they can be judgy. They have these beady little eyes, and they walk around with determination. They walk around like this, and I feel like sometimes like they're judging me. Like, they go, look at me, I'm constantly moving. What are you doing? Just sitting on the couch like that? Yeah, that's right. You better get in shape. I'm gonna live to see the iPhone 50 at least. You better get moving. But I don't think it's a fair comparison, of course, because tortoises have a built-in weight management system around them, which is the shell. They can never get bigger than the shell. Sometimes I find I have shell envy. I wish I had a shell. It's the perfect way to make sure you never gain too much weight. Here's another friend of mine told me nowadays we're living in a victim culture. Have you heard of that? That everybody, you have to get to be a victim to get ahead nowadays. Everybody's victimizing themselves. I'm looking for heads nodding. I'm seeing a few. Yeah, that's the thing now. They say in America we live in a victim culture. If you're not a victim, you're not getting anywhere. And my friend complained to me about this. He said, "There's no way for me to make it now in America because I'm not, this whole victim culture." I said, "Are you a victim?" And he said, "No." I said, "Well, then that puts you at a huge disadvantage, doesn't it?" He said, "Yes." I said, "Well, there you go. You're a victim of victim culture. Congratulations. You can make it in America. You're all right." Everybody, I started posting my opinions on Facebook about things because we live in such crazy times. And unfortunately, there's so much anti-Semitism. And I feel that if we don't speak up and fight against it, nobody's going to on our behalf. And I always advocate for Israel, and I post things I grew up with a lot of Israeli relatives, and they used to come over and tell me bedtime stories. I had an uncle that would come over and tell me stories. He'd be like, Humpty Dumpty, he sat on the Western Wall. He had a very big fall. Was an incident. We blame on the Palestinians. Hamas claimed responsibility for the fall. So 2 hours later, we surround the compound in Ramallah with the tank of IDF, a lot of shooting back and forth. All the king horses and all the king men could not put them back together because it was a big massacre. Anyway, sweet dreams, Danny boy, okay? Sweet dreams. So I always advocate for Israel. I always fight for Israel. A friend of mine told me, you know, what's the point of putting your opinions up online and you're not going to change anybody else's opinion? And I said, well, you know, every opinion you have that you formed was formed from hearing other people's opinions. So eventually, you know, you hear something and it makes sense to you, it changes your opinion. He said, yeah, I guess that's true. I said, so I just changed your opinion. He said, that's right. I said, so I'm going to keep posting. You know, you got to keep posting. You got to make your voice heard. Otherwise, you wind up a victim, and then you can make it in America in a victim culture. You know, we don't want to wind up in, God forbid, a situation where we have Sharia law, which to me always sounds like it could be like a black sitcom. Sharia law, like when you come into Sharia's house, it's Sharia law, baby. It's Sharia law. The temperature never goes under 90 degrees. Sharia law. You better wipe your damn feet before you come in the house. Sharia law, baby. Sharia law. I'm assuming that I'm absolutely killing right now, or that's not a positive word. I'll say I'm bringing everyone to life. I think everybody, hopefully out there, is having a good time. Though it's strange when you can't hear the audience reaction. I'll can I get some thumbs up? Thumbs up. All right, awesome. Thank you. All right, cool. Well, yeah, when I came out to LA, I had some aspirations to be in movies. And I've been here for 8 years. I've so far been in 0 movies, but you know, it's almost like the movies have rejected me. It's become personal because the other day they were shooting a movie on my block, and they put a note on my gate that said, "Residents, please don't leave the house. We're shooting a movie." I said, "Hey, movies. That's why I came here in the first place. All I would have to do now is literally just live my life, and I'd be in movies." So it's starting to feel very personal. Um, you know, the the closest I've gotten, I think, to being in movies here is I've shown up in about I think something like over 1,000 people's backup cams when they're reversing their cars. That's if you put that all together, it could win an Oscar. The performances I've been putting together. You know, somebody told me, don't wait to be in movies. You have to do it yourself. They said they told me about a friend of theirs who's proactive. They said he put a GoPro camera on his forehead and he went to live in a homeless encampment for a week. I said, well, that sounds like homeless people just got themselves a nice GoPro. I don't know if that's really going to be the answer here for me. Well, let's see. What else can I tell you guys? I've been touring for a long time. I've gotten to go, thank God, to many interesting places. One place I went to do shows was South Africa. And before I went, I'm sorry, when I got there, a fella said to me, you know, welcome to Johannesburg. He said, you know, it's nice that you're here to do shows. I just want to let you know, when you walk around the street here, you might feel something to the back of your neck. It's a gun, and someone will ask you for all your money. You just give them whatever you got, and you walk away, and pray to God you walk away with your life. And I said, wow, that's a scary reality to live in. I said, why do people continue living here? He said, let me tell you, the steak is phenomenal. You can't find better meat than this anywhere. So, I mean, people will really go a long way for a good meal. But it was pretty wild in South Africa. You know, people are in gates and the lions are free. It's the only place where you'll see that. Everybody's property is gated. The lions are walking around free. In fact, you could even walk into a place with the lions. They have a place called the Lion Park where you can go and play with lions. And I went to do this. I went and first of all, they have a bar, which is essential if you're going to get someone to go into a cage with lions. You have a lot of l'chaims and you're ready, and you go in there. I think, you know, you get a few Chabad guys in there. I think we can make that happen. And but I was on my own. I had enough l'chaims, and finally they said, "My friend, would you like to now go and play with the lions?" And I said, "All right, fine, I'm ready." And I went in and immediately 3 lions jumped on me. And now here's the thing. You'd think they'd have some kind of good way of dealing with it, but it's Africa. So it was just a guy who showed up with a roll of paper towels. He started hitting the lion on the head going, "Bad lion, what did I tell you? Let go the man. Let go the man." And he says, "I'm sorry, sir. He thought you were a water buffalo." But you got to be careful. You got to be careful where you go. You know, the thing is, you know, I am always trying to, I'm always trying to lose weight, but the advice out there is strange. Somebody told me every time you eat a burger, they said you're taking 6 minutes off your life. And I calculated that I eat about 4 burgers a month. And when I figured that out, I went home right away and I threw away all my socks and went on Amazon and got 60 socks with the same matching pattern on them. Because I did the math in my head, it was taking me 30 minutes a month to pair my socks. So I gained 6 minutes a month on my life without giving up any burgers. So I think I might have found the secret to immortality there. Get new socks and you don't have to be on a diet. You're welcome. If you get nothing else out of this, you just got a tip that can save you years on your life. You know, I used to go to Costco all the time. Now it's like a crazy line to get into Costco if you want anything. But my brothers and I were raised on Costco. My dad always treated Costco like it was Disneyland. You know, he took us there on vacations. You know, we were little kids and he took us to Costco and he treated Costco the way that, like, I guess how Native Americans treated the buffalo. No piece of it didn't get used. You know, he would go and get his tires changed. He would get his glasses prescription done. He would print film. He'd go to the pharmacy. I mean, every single part of Costco got utilized. And my brothers and I, we would just be left for hours to entertain ourselves in Costco. So brother Josh and I, we came up with something called the nicest boys in Costco, which is we saw that there are all these counters, as you know, where they have people sampling stuff in Costco. And we figured to ourselves, why should we be sampling what they want us to sample? We should be sampling what we want to sample, you know? So we'd open up something, it would have like 100-something pieces in it. We'd find a sample couch. We'd sit down on the couch. We'd have a few ice creams or whatever it was we were sampling that day. And then this is where the nicest boys in Costco kick in. We give the rest to everybody else in the store. So we just stand there handing out samples to whoever walked by. And it was, people don't know what to do in those situations because everybody tells kids don't take candy from adults. Nobody tells adults what to do when it's the other way around. So people were confused and perplexed, and they would come up and they'd see these 2 little kids handing out samples, and they'd say, well, can I ask you guys a question? Do you work here? And we said no, and we developed a jingle because this question came up so often. We had a jingle ready to go. We go, no, but we're the nicest boys. The nicest boys. We're the nicest boys in Costco. And we'd hand them a sample. And nobody could refuse a sample after a nice jingle like that. And so, you know, I'm in my 30s now, and I thought, I wonder if the nicest boys thing would still work. I was in Costco before COVID-19, and I decided, let me open a box and see if I could join the ranks of the samplers here and get some of these out there. And I opened up a thing of yogurts and I started handing them out, but nobody, and I'm practicing the whole time. I'm practicing in my head, the nicest boys in Costco, because I wanted to bring it back, you know, but nobody asked the question. Nobody asked the question. They just took the samples because I guess when you're an adult, they do assume you work there. And, you know, I had about 50 people with yogurts all around me. They're Go-Gurts. You know what Go-Gurts are? They're the laziest thing in the world. It's such an American invention. They came up with a thing where they put yogurt in a tube. That means that there must have been a boardroom meeting in the yogurt company where they said, look, people aren't eating yogurt like they used to. Does anybody have any idea why this could be? And someone raised their hand. They said, yes, what do you think it is? And I said, well, you know, people are lazy these days, and this just might be too much work for them. If there was only a way we could shoot yogurt directly into people's heads from a tube, then that might work better. And so they invented the Go-Gurt. Now, I had these Go-Gurts, about 50 people having Go-Gurts all around me. It was probably the closest I've ever come to being like Moses. I had a whole sea of people around me with go-gurts. I felt like I could lead them through the parking lot. I could split the traffic, and I could get them, to their next destination. I really felt like I was making a difference. But then somebody must have radioed the manager and said there was a rogue sampler going on. And so this guy came yelling and charging at me. He says, are you the guy who was giving out samples of Go-Gurt in my store? Now, it's quite possibly the stupidest question I've ever been asked, because I had a giant box of Go-Gurt in my hand and 50 people around me ready to follow me anywhere I took them with Go-Gurts. So I couldn't resist. I had to have a little fun with it. I said, somebody's giving out Go-Gurt in the store. That sounds amazing. What makes you think it's me? And I guess the guy couldn't tell I was kidding or something, because he froze for a second. He didn't know what to say. He got all flustered and he said, it's definitely you. He came to the conclusion. I said, all right, fine, you got me. I'm busted. I said, but I said, is there something wrong with doing this? He goes, technically, no. He said, assuming you pay for the product on the way out. I said, I will. He said, so you're not actually in any violation of anything. I said, so can I continue? He said, I prefer if you don't. I said, okay. I said, so we're good here? He said, I guess we're good here. But I'm sorry. He said, it's just bothering me. He says, I got to know. Why'd you do it? I said, I'm glad you asked, sir. Because I'm the nicest boy, I'm the nicest boy in Costco. And he said, I'm going to have to revoke your membership after all this. I said, I've been sneaking in here for years. So he signed me up. Anyway, I'll tell you one more story, I think, and we'll wrap it on that. But there was a time when I was in a waiting room here in LA. Everybody was there. It was kind of like now a depressed time, and everybody was waiting a doctor's office, and I felt like the room had a depressing feel. There was 50 people and they all looked pretty sad. And sometimes when I'm in these situations without knowing it, I start playing jazz trumpet with my mouth. Now I don't know why or when this started, but in New Orleans you guys might appreciate this because it's a jazzy place. And to give you a little background on this, when I was going up the doctor's office in the elevator there was a lady there, a black lady, single mother with 3 kids, and she was the only other person in the elevator. And one of her kids, her daughter, kept taking her flip-flop off in the elevator and putting her foot down, her bare foot on the floor. And she kept screaming at her, "Stop it! Stop taking your damn flip! Don't take your flip-flop off! Keep your flip-flop on your foot. Don't put your foot on the floor. It's so dirty." And then she said, you want people to look at you and look at me and think that I got dirty ghetto kids? And then she looked at me because I was the only other one in the elevator. And she said, sir, isn't that what you think when you look at my daughter taking her foot out of her flip-flop and putting it on the dirty elevator floor, that I got dirty ghetto kids? And then she looked at me like, you better agree with me on this. I need the help that parents give each other, So I said, okay, sure. That's what I think. She says, you see what white people think of you? Now, I didn't want to be one of those white people, so I thought, let me redeem the situation and try and build good faith, build bridges. So the elevator door opened, and I said, let me show them. I'm going to make I'm going to do a good thing here. I'm going to make a Kiddush Hashem, I don't know that she knew I was Jewish, but at least a Kiddush Hashem for white people, at the very least. So I said, listen, ma'am, I was positioned to get out of the elevator first, but I said, why don't you go ahead? You've got kids. And I saw there was a long line to get into the doctor's office. And I figured let her go out first and she'll get to the line first. And it could be something to try and build bridges here. I said, why don't you go ahead? She says, thank you very much. You're a gentleman. So she left with her kids. But then her daughter started taking her flip-flop off again, and it slowed her down. So I still got to the line before her. So when she got there behind me, I said, why don't you go ahead of me? You've got all these kids. And she said, thank you very much. Now I'm going to fast forward you back to where I was in the waiting room with the 50 depressed people. And I start playing jazz trumpet. And it's instinctual. I didn't realize I was doing it, but I just sitting there waiting and waiting. And I start going. Okay. Now I don't realize I'm doing this, but that lady from the elevator gets up and she says, "Excuse me." I said, "What?" She goes, "You making that noise?" I said, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to disturb. I wasn't even aware." She goes, "No, it's beautiful." And she stands up and announces to all 50 people in the waiting room. She goes, "Excuse me, ladies and gentlemen, but doesn't that man sound exactly 99% exactly like a trumpet?" Now, no one else had heard it because she was the only one sitting close enough to me. So now everybody perks up in the room and they start saying, "Do it, do the trumpet." And I said, "I don't know, I don't want to do it." And then the woman says, "Do the trumpet. Everyone wants to hear the trumpet." And part of me said, "Don't embarrass yourself and do this for everybody." And the other part of me said, "This is the first time I've actually had representation in Hollywood. You may as well go for it." So I decided to do the trumpet. And I gave everybody a more upbeat tune. I just went like. And I look around, and all of a sudden I saw smiles on people's faces, and it really perked up the room. Somebody was filming me with their iPhone. A lot of people were really like getting into it, moving to the music. And in the corner, there was an older black man with a fedora on, and he had his eyes closed, and he was swaying his head back and forth, just repeating the same thing. He just kept saying, "Mm-hmm, that's jazz. Mm-hmm, that's jazz." Like he might have been asking himself different questions in his head that all had the same answer. Like, "Is that music from New Orleans? Mm-hmm, that's jazz. Is that basketball team in Utah? Mm-hmm, that's jazz. Is that shark that ate all the people on the beach that one time? Mm-mm, that's Jaws." and and the woman said to me, she turned and she said, "That is an amazing skill you have there." She said, "You know what I want to do? I want to shrink you down real small, and I'm gonna and put you in my bathroom." And first of all, people are always trying to shrink me down. I don't know what it is, whatever situation, but that's the last thing I want to hear. But she says she starts explaining the layout of her bathroom. She says, "On top of my toilet, I have some shelves where I got a lot of little trinkets, and I'm going to put you there with the trinkets." I said, "Oh boy, that doesn't sound good, but go on." She goes, "Then I would run myself a hot bubble bath, and I open a Stella Artois, and I would get in the bath, and I'd just say, 'Play for me all day.'" And I said, that could be some kind of a nightmare from a horror movie, but on the other hand, it's steady work, so what are you going to do? Thank you, everybody, very much for having me be a part of this. I hope I brought you laughter. I couldn't hear it, but I assume and hope that it's happening. And like I said at the beginning, may the laughter continue on, and may it bring us into the times of Mashiach. And I'm so honored and grateful to have been part of an event for Chabad, especially Chabad of New Orleans, who I know firsthand are so warm and hospitable, and had my wife and I many years ago for a Shabbat that we still remember with incredible fondness. And I love the work that Chabad does. And I myself was not raised Chabad, but I'm very influenced by Chabad, and they've played a great role in my life. And I've always taken the time, as I recommend to everybody, to read about the Lubavitcher Rebbe of blessed memory, who always said to build bridges. Don't look for where we disagree with people. Find where we do agree with people and build bridges from there. And hopefully that's something we can really use in our time right now, where we're so divided as a nation and divided as a Jewish people, unfortunately, through politics. I encourage everybody to talk to everyone else. If I can tell one message to everyone: talk to your Jewish friends, whoever they are. Don't focus on where you differ, but build bridges with them. And we should have one united Klal Yisrael. and it should bring blessings to everybody. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Danny. This is such an amazing Jewish comedy show where you get comedy and a Dvar Torah to end it. So thank you very much. And before we wrap up, I want to, again, thank everyone for participating in the campaign. Thank you all for coming on to the event this evening. And we are humbled and blessed to have everyone's support, and we cannot tell you how much we appreciate that. At this time, if anyone would like to come on and give a toast, please send us a quick comment to the host in the chat box, and we will unmute you so you can say something and participate in the event tonight. Don't all jump at once. Okay, then we'll call it a night. Thank you very much. All the best. Appreciate it. Thank you, Danny. It was good seeing you again.
Thank you very much. It was really an honor to be here. And to everybody out there, stay healthy, stay safe, and continue to support Chabad. Thank you.
We're getting some great comments in the comment for Danny. Great job.
Oh.
Thank you.
How do we see the comments? I don't see it.
The settings are set to private.
Oh, okay.